Welcome to Happiness on Tap, where we fill your cup with inspiration, resilience, and real life tools to create your best life. I'm your host, Leann Herron, and today we're diving into the art of small, sustainable change with Michael Landau, a Feldenkrais practitioner, somatic educator, and creator of persistent growth, a powerful 3-minute daily mindful movement practice. With over 30 years of experience exploring how body awareness and habit creation intertwine, Michael has helped thousands rediscover ease, mobility, and presence through simple, science based micro habits. What if just 3 minutes of moving mindfully every day could change how you move, feel, and show up in life? If you've ever felt too busy, too tired, or too stuck to make self care a daily habit, this conversation will inspire you to start small, stay consistent. Michael, welcome to the show. It is so wonderful to have you join us today.
Thank you, Leann. It's lovely to be here.
I'm excited for our conversation, and we'll get started right away. Michael, you have spent decades studying movement and awareness. How did your journey lead you to develop a tiny daily practice approach?
Yeah, so the Feldenkrais method works with movement. I've been a practitioner for over 30 years, and the classical way of doing a class is similar to yoga or any any of those methods that work with movement. You go to a studio, you have a mat, and you take like 45 minutes to an hour to go through a sequence of explorations in movement. Works wonderfully. It is great. In the pandemic, I had to stop giving classes in my studio. Nobody moved around. We were all stuck in front of our computers. And at the time, I was looking at my own habits in a general way, not just movement habits, but just the way I was organizing myself. Uh, I became an independent. I quit my job as a music teacher. So for the first time in my life, I found myself as an entrepreneur, business owner, independent. I had, and I found out that I have no idea how to organize myself. Like I didn't have habits that were independent of a schedule that was given from the outside as an employee. So uh, the combination of the pandemic, having to work in front of the computer instead of in my studio, examining my own habits, and uh, it was a time when everybody was kind of stressed. We were in fear. We had to reinvent our lives in a new situation. And it was a good time to examine, to help my students also examine their habits. What is it that they're doing on a daily basis? And given that I work with movement as a tool for growth, learning, improvement, and self-care, mm, I I came up with the idea. It was an experiment of creating something that works well online, that wouldn't work in my studio. Nobody would come to my studio for a 3-minute class, but it works very well online, and it was easier for people, for myself as well, to not have to take a whole hour to lie on the floor to shut shut out the family, the whole mess that was around in the home. And it was easier mm, to focus for 3 minutes. It was possible. And my idea was to make it a daily thing. So not just take a class once in a while. People would come to my studio for an hour once a week. Great. It is very effective. But if you want to make self-care a regular thing, something that you really come back to on a regular basis. And it was really necessary in 2020, in the beginning of the pandemic. Like really find the focus to bring your attention from the external noise that was huge to yourself for just a moment and do something small with your awareness on yourself. And I found out, and we've tried it. I've had a pilot group that went with me through this experiment, and I've created daily sessions of 3 minutes, a different one each day, and a little bit ahead of time so that people had their daily session regularly. And we found out together that it works because in 3 minutes, something small shifts. The shift when you pay attention to yourself and do some movements that the Feldenkrais method is very ingenious in creating regular, normal movements, nothing crazy, day-to-day mobility in a way that is a little different, a little curious. It wakes your brain up to explore something new. Although we are dealing with the very basics of mobility, stability, and just being in the world. So we found out that it works because you take a tiny step of self-care and improvement every day. In 3 minutes, something small changes. The change is very instantaneous. It happens quickly when you create this space for learning. So that's how it started. And it keeps going because it's still working and it's a great habit to have. And if you manage to sustain over time, you notice that an accumulation of improvement in the way you feel yourself, the way you are in the world, the way you move.
I love it. And I love your story of how you got there. The pandemic was definitely a change for all of us. It was my time of change. I left my career in the legal field, was able to spend a year just focusing on my self care, my mental health, my physical health. At that time, I was really able, like you said, to put into place habits that I didn't have time for because I was either commuting or, had to do more to get to work. There was a period of my life where I was commuting 2 hours a day. So there was no real time for physical self care. I could do mental self care like reading and other things, but physical self care, there just wasn't time for it. And so I learned, through the pandemic to develop really good, healthy habits. And the 3 minute idea is fantastic because everybody has 3 minutes. Like you said, people can easily talk themselves out of an hour plus if they have to commute to that yoga class, then commute home. That's time away from their family. So I love what you have created because it makes it possible for everyone.
Yeah, the idea was to take the time issue out of the equation. So really, 3 minutes is possible. Of course, you're not limited by the 3 minutes. If you feel like repeating it, doing it twice a day, if we do something to one side, do the other side. So you can always do more. The idea is to create success in building a new habit of self-care because so many people just don't dedicate any time at all to themselves. They're just so busy with it. There's so much happening. We have so many obligations, and there's so much noise in our modern world that you really have to create that situation and some kind of commitment to take care of yourself. And if the commitment is 1 hour a day, you're more likely to fail and you just say, okay, it doesn't work, I cannot do it, and give up. If it's 3 minutes, it's doable. As you say, everybody has 3 minutes a day. So it's not really a time issue. you still have to show up every day. It is some kind of a commitment, and some people don't manage to hold on to that either, but not because of time, normally.
Yeah, and I've been recently blessed through my husband's employer who offers a program called Hinge Health. And it's basically an app for physical therapy. So you can get your physical therapy at home and you designate what parts of your body you want to work on. And then every morning it sends you a reminder. It tells you how long your exercises are going to be, anywhere from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. And it walks you through each exercise. And one thing I have noticed just within the last month, because I've been focusing on my neck, my upper back, and my lower back, because I sit all day, that I have really improved my posture. And I'm much more aware of it, having worked at a computer my whole life. I know I used to hunch over. I know I used to sit kind of sideways or just not aware of my posture. And so just adding those daily exercises, I have already started to feel the improvement in my core, in my shoulders, and how my chest is opened up and I sit upright. So I love the idea, and it works for me in 5 minutes, 10 minutes is great. I have it set for an alarm at 7 a.m. It sends me an email notification and I just get it done. And I can choose to do, like you said, choose to do more if I want, or throughout the day. They're always available. So I really like how you have created this for your clients and made it available. So let's talk a little bit more about what makes small, consistent action more effective than big lifestyle overhauls when it comes to change.
So there's a lot of science around habits in the last decade or two. It has become pretty clear that our habitual patterns really define who we are, the things we do regularly. Sorry. So if you do something huge and you do it once, like go climb a 8,000-meter mountain, it can be very transformative. And people who do these kind of huge feats report that they've been changed by their experience. Most of us won't do that. It is great if you can, if you wish to, if you're so inclined. Most of us just have our daily life, and we pretty much have a routine, we have our obligations, we have our family. So what we do on a regular basis really matters. And it is clear that you can build habits that actually take you forward, that make you improve, that keeps your brain working, that keeps your body healthy. There are quite there are some pillars of health that are well known. You have to exercise in some way, you have to sleep well, you have to reduce your stress, you have to eat well. All of these are habits. They are things that you do regularly. It's not like you eat one good healthy meal and you're fine. It is something that you do on a regular basis. The same with exercise, and this particular kind of exercise is is my contribution to health and self-care, and it kind of touches on different things. It works with your body in movement, and it actually creates a learning space so that you improve the way you move. It's not mechanical. It's not like lifting weights. When you lift weights, you're working on your muscles. You will gain muscle mass. This is the mechanical part of our body, like as a machine. Very useful, very necessary. But the quality of your movement, the way you use your body to have an effect in the world, matters and can be improved. And that is also if you create that kind of learning space on a regular basis, you move better. So whatever it is that you do otherwise, whatever activity you are, even sitting in front of the computer, but exercising, doing yoga, whatever it is, going out for a walk, you will do it a little bit differently, a little bit better coordinated. And this created a journey of improvement. It slows down your aging, and it reduces pain. It has lots of benefits that are kind of global and grow over time. And at the same time, it's a mindful practice. So you're actually practicing your focus, your ability to pay attention, to stay with your attention where you want it. We know how our mind is scattered, and there's so much input from the outside world these days. So it works on many levels of simply being a better human being. And you do this and take a small step every day, you're on a journey. That's what habits do for you.
And I like that in how you're explaining it, like the simple tasks that we do every day. So, say you went grocery shopping and you come home and you're unloading your car, and how are you bending? How are you lifting? How are you carrying? You don't think about it. You just do. Grab as many groceries as you can out of the trunk of your car and you carry them all in and you set them down and you go to just putting them away. It's just this, automatic stuff that we're doing. But when you have developed those mindful practices on how you do things and what your intention is and what you are thinking about when you're doing these things, it changes everything. And developing a mindfulness practice has been very valuable to me in everything I do. Even washing dishes, standing at the sink. How am I standing? Am I in good posture? Am I grateful for the meal that I have shared with my husband while I'm washing those dishes? Having that mindfulness practice just changes everything. And so it's such a beautiful skill to develop those habits as well as the mindfulness. So I love how you talk about it. So I want to know more about how the principles of Feldenkrais and somatic awareness influence your 3-minute movement method. And if you would share a simple movement exploration exercise with my audience, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, so the best way to understand it is do it. So we can go through a little short exploration, very basic. So it works if you're sitting, it works if you're standing. If you're sitting on a chair, so just move a little bit forward so that you're not leaning back and you can move freely. So you can do it with me. Our audience can take a moment.
Yep.
If you're not driving or working heavy machinery, you can do it with us. So take a moment to just sit or stand. If you're standing, it will work the same way. Feel your feet on the ground and take a look at your breathing. Just notice what is moving as you breathe in, as you breathe out. Something has to expand to let the air in, something has to contract to push the air out. So just figure out what it is that is expanding. Okay, and put both hands on your breastbone, one hand on top of the other. So you can feel the bone that holds your ribs together. And now, as you breathe out, feel the weight of your hands. Let your arms sink on top of your breastbone so that it goes a little bit down and inwards. And then breathe in and come back. So there's a small movement of rounding your back. And you synchronize it with your breathing. You breathe out and round your back, and you guide the way with your hands without pushing. Just feel their weight, and it helps you round the part of your back that is right behind your hands, the back of your rib cage. Breathe out. And you may notice that your gaze lowers a little bit as you do it, but not because you're doing it with your neck, but because you're rounding your whole back. And now, as you breathe in, do the opposite movement. So it's as if your breastbone pushes your hands a little forward and up. So you round your back as you breathe out, and you arch your back as you breathe in. And we're interested in this part of the back that is right behind your hands. It's the mobility of your chest that we're exploring, right? And it has something to do with your breathing. So notice that your rib cage shrinks, becomes smaller as you breathe out if you round your back and exaggerate it a little bit. And it opens up space for the air to come in if you move it forward and up. And your hands just make it clearer because our hands are very susceptible to information. So this is something that is part of our breathing, really, but we're exaggerating it so that we can be aware of it. You round your back, your chest sinks in. As you breathe out, it comes forward and up, and this part of your back, right behind your hands, is activated as you breathe in. Do it 1 or 2 more times. Okay. Let go of it. Now, just take another look at your breathing. Maybe it's a bit calmer. Maybe your mind is a bit calmer. And just don't bother to put your hands on your chest, but do the movement a few more times and notice the whole length of your spine and try to imagine that it creates a small curve backwards as you breathe out and a curve forwards as you breathe in. And try to imagine the shape of your whole spine. And you're trying to make a uniform movement all along the spine. So you may notice that some parts of your spine are less willing to move. You're just trying to imagine it as a uniform movement. Breathe out, round your back. Breathe in and arch your back. Let go of it and just stay for a moment and feel the way you're holding yourself. What does being upright mean? It is the posture that you're choosing in this moment is somewhere in between those two extremes, right? So just sense it. This is your posture. You've just created it or recreated it. And you probably your nervous system gained some information about this choice. Your posture is a choice. It's also a habit. It's a habitual pattern. So we have a posture that we keep creating, and it's similar to what we did yesterday. But when you play with it in this way, just playing with the options that are around what we call posture, it gives new information to this pattern. Okay, so that was more or less 3 minutes. I don't know, maybe a little more, a little less, but this is what a session could look like. You bring your attention to, and part of the class is that I help you with your attention because I call your attention. I ask you to look at the middle of your back. I ask you to look at the mobility of your breastbone, at the weight of the hands. So there are these prompts for your attention that helps you create a mindful moment. And yeah, this is it. a sample, and I have a full year, 365 sessions the content of my membership. So the material for exploration is infinite. This was one possibility among infinite options because our mobility is varied and very ingenious. So
I
does
really
this
enjoyed
give
that.
you an idea of what it looks like?
Yeah, no, actually, I really, really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the awareness. I enjoyed the prompts. It, like you said, it gave me full focus on something to focus on and think about. And then you were talking about the signals that it sends to your nervous system. And I think for people who have a very dysregulated nervous system or who are almost in chronic fight and flight, that these kind of tools um, can really help the individual gain control of sending our body and our nervous system cues of when we feel safe, because that's what I was feeling in those moments. You know, I had my sense of safety very similar to when I meditate. um, just that, you know, knowing that my feet were on the floor, my body was holding itself up, I wasn't having to focus on making my body stay in any one position. My body just automatically was holding me up. And that those skills and tools can help strengthen the muscles and the spine and the way the spine and the muscles work together to hold you in place. It's so important and so valuable. And then adding that level of telling your nervous system, I am safe in this moment. And, you know, just knowing that these are things that we can call on when we need them, whether it's sitting in our car, whether it's sitting at our desk, whether it's sitting on the couch with another person. You know, we can call on those practices that can hold us in place and keep us safe or make us feel safe.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some premises to this whole work. There are things that I say in the beginning as an introduction. We are not trying to do anything. We are not trying to reach a movement goal. So unlike pretty much all of the other somatic methods that I'm somehow familiar with, we are not trying to create something specific. If you do yoga, if you do martial arts, if you do any of the methods that have a form of their own, like this is the pose, you can do it well, you can do it, you can improve your way of doing it as you practice. In Feldenkrais, we are not really trying to reach anything specific in any position. We don't have a form that we are aspiring to. We are exploring. So the the basic attitude is of self-care, of reducing the ambition. There is no goal to be reached, and you wake up your curiosity. So you basically, this is the way babies learn. They just move around and they're fascinated by what they observe. And they observe not with their eyes, but with their sense of their body, with a proprioception. So we recreate a baby's learning space. We just do things, sometimes silly, sometimes it feels completely useless, or sometimes we do movement that we recognize from daily life, but we are not trying to do them well. We just explore how they work. So this is the kind of information that goes into those ancient habitual patterns that our nervous system created in the first couple of years of life. And they can be improved. So then it comes up in daily life because you're being reminded of those things that you did yesterday or the other day in class when you reach up to a high shelf. How are my ribs moving? What's the shape of my spine as I do it? So it's not just the shoulder that makes an effort to reach up, for example. Or we did this session right now. It has to do with your breathing and it has to do with your posture. And then you notice, what is my choice of posture at the moment? How does it affect my breathing? It is it creates awareness, as you say. It builds into more clarity and more attention to yourself, but it creates improvement on a subconscious level in those ancient patterns of using our body that we don't even know we have.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking about my past experience of learning different modalities in pieces. Um, I had never meditated before. I had never done yoga before. Yoga I picked up as I was kind of learning learning what I like, because I had just come out of a 20-year marriage. I had spent my entire life taking care of everybody else, raising my kids, having a full-time job. And now my kids were grown. I was living alone for the first time. And so, what do I like? What do I even enjoy? What brings me joy? And I had really thrown myself into health and fitness. So I was exercising daily and regularly and eating really clean. And one thing I've always struggled with, even from small childhood, was stability and ankle strength, because I was born with a lot of leg problems. And so I wanted to learn about yoga as a means to improve my stability, flexibility, and ankle strength. And, I started attending yoga classes, but I never really, it wasn't a one on one thing. And so it was one to many. I was in, a class with maybe 20, 30 other students and one instructor who may come over periodically and kind of help adjust your body. But I wasn't learning like the mechanics. We learned about breath, but what I was learning about breath was, if I breathe deeper or breathe differently, I can bend further. So it was like you were talking about, it was like achieving a goal. Um, Same with meditation. I think, to me, learning it and wanting to learn it was, again, trying to achieve a goal. I was trying to achieve peace and a place where I had never been able to exist before, and had gratitude that, like I said, my body could hold me in my place while my mind was able to take these journeys for long periods of time, for short periods of time. But it just felt like I was learning things in pieces, and not really the full picture of a mind body connection, a mind, breath and spirituality and everything all together. And I didn't start really learning that until I started learning more about somatics.
Yeah, well, it's difficult to learn the whole picture. It is you probably pick up little things, and the big picture grows and becomes more detailed and clearer with time. But yeah, the fact that we are not really trying to do something well in class, we're just observing ourselves in movement and noticing things. That's a source of information. So, but when you reduce ambition to as much as possible, you're not trying to achieve anything, you're entering much more easily a learning space. And learning space is where you can actually create small changes in those ancient habits. Because when we really try to do something and we try hard, we lean on our are well ingrained habits. When you're trying to perform, you use what you know. When you stop trying to perform, you can play with new things. So that's kind of at the background of this kind of work. And really, we're working with the very basics of holding ourselves and moving in space and moving our arms, moving our gaze, following our gaze. These are brain patterns. And they are like huge highways in our brain that have been created long, long ago, and we keep using them, and they're useful. Only if we never stop to examine them, like take an old computer program and see where little bugs are, although it's still working, you can still improve on it and keep updating it so that it gets better and better. And we know that if we don't do this, we get worse with time, with age. I've reached a certain age where I have to think about aging, and I notice that if I don't do anything, I don't stay the same. I actually get worse. So I feel the need to do something to reverse this process of deterioration, and it is really possible to actually create improvement on an ongoing basis, a tiny step at a time.
Yeah, let's go a little deeper with that and talk about how mindful movement and awareness practices affect the brain and the nervous system over time.
So this kind of work, it's like a conversation with your nervous system. The habits, when we're talking about creating the habit of self-care in 3 minutes, it is a conscious habit. It is something that we commit to, that we have to come back to every day. But our brain creates habits, and this is the way of economizing and working with repeated action in a way that works. If we had to recreate balance at every moment of our life, we wouldn't be able to do anything else. If you look at a toddler that stand up for the first time, their whole attention, you can almost hear their brain wheels turning. They're focused on keeping balance. It is not obvious at all. We have to learn it. And it takes time. It takes about a year before we stand up, and then another year to be really stable so that we can walk and run. So maybe at age 3, more or less, we get to, we have established stability, balance. And this is a brain pattern. We have created it. So it is very necessary to build a pathway that is neural. It is in the brain, the way we organize, correct our balance at every moment. And we don't want to deal with it consciously. It's just too much work. It is too much brain power. It goes to deeper parts of our brain and it becomes automatic. This is how habits work in our brain. And if we never look at them again, for example, balance, and we don't challenge it on a regular basis, we're still using what we learned in the first 3 years of our life, and it gets worse. And we see it in our modern world. People over 80, one of the main reasons of injury, causes of injury, is falls, loss of balance. People just fall and break their hips much too often, and not because they're old. It's because they've stopped challenging their balance, and it gets worse with time. Because we walk on padded shoes, on flat surfaces, there is no challenge. We evolved to walk on uneven surface with bare feet. Our feet have lots of bones, lots of joints, lots of mobility. They can correct and maintain balance, and it becomes automatic. But when you keep challenging it, like walk barefoot on the mountains, you will not fall. And it is something specific to our culture. So that's an example of a habit that kind of falls asleep and deteriorates with time. And we can play with this, with how we create habit, challenge it and I do it in some of the sessions in persistent growth. Work with balance, challenge it, bring out this automatic pilot, this whole pattern of holding our balance, bring it to your consciousness, challenge it, play with it, do some things that you don't do on a regular basis, and you improve it instead of allowing it to get worse with time.
Thank you for sharing that, especially as it relates to our aging and allowing ourselves to not challenge our physical self and our mental self. And they're both things that we, need to be constantly working on. If we want to, we're all going to age. That's just part of life, but it's how we age and what kind of life that we want to live as we age. And that we need to remember that we do have choice and control, and we can make those daily choices, as we age, lifting one leg off the ground, putting that leg back down, lifting one leg off the ground, putting that back down, reawakening those muscles, as well as, like you said, the neural pathways in our brain, and keep them functioning and working. And because they do continue to develop, they don't just stop as we age. You can still keep your brain alive. And the more you try to challenge your brain, the longer it will stay alive. Whether that's doing
Absolutely.
crossword puzzles, whatever it is, challenge reading, just different things. Is we do have control and the power to show up for ourselves every day.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's very clear by now that any way you can challenge your brain is healthy and will keep it healthier over time, like learning a new language, learning a musical instrument. The advantage of working with movement is that movement is the basic language of our brain. Actually, scientists claim that we have a brain because we move. Any creatures or living things that don't have voluntary movement don't have brains. So the movement is the language of the brain. So it is the most available and the easy, the kind of the laboratory of easiest access to create growth, movement, change, improvement, and keep your brain active and healthy.
In your membership, what shifts do members first notice when they really start to commit to these daily practices?
So members respond to each session. There is a comment section, so there are lots of comments, and people comment in. I never know which session is going to work for which person. This is very individual, and it once in a while, and pretty often, people have this aha moment when something really opens up. And maybe in some of the sessions, not too many, they feel that nothing happens. I didn't get this one, don't know what it's all about. But usually there is some awakening to something specific, because we work in a very specific movement each time. We do the instructions are very concrete. It is not in the air. So There are always there's always a response to the specific demand. So people can say something, oh, I breathed so much fuller after this one, or I felt the mobility of my ribs, or my hip felt like it could do new things today. So the, there's there's always a specific response to the specific thing we're doing. And then there are things that grow over time. People feel more focused. They recognize things. They can say, "Wow, I doing this session today, I noticed that I'm moving a lot better than I did 2 months ago." So there is an accumulative benefit or improvement that is noticeable, and people comment on that, on whatever it is that they have been struggling with. And then there are some responses, some changes, some life changes that people reported over time and said, this wouldn't have happened without persistent growth. And these are things that I don't manage. I don't I don't teach it directly, but it is a transformative journey. So I had one student who moved from one state in the United States to another, bought her dream home for retirement, and it was a huge move, like changing states, buying a home, selling a home, a big thing. And she said, it wouldn't have happened without persistent growth. I didn't teach her to move houses, right? She felt in her power, she felt able, she felt the possibility to move forward towards what you wanted and actually do it. And even though it had lots of pieces and it looked huge, she could also solve each problem in itself without being overwhelmed. That kind of transformation. Another student who is who is a professional musician said he was inspired to go back to the practice of basics, of the basic technique, the things that he didn't do in the last 40 years, because he's a professor, he works, he plays every day. So just going to the basics, which is what we do in this practice. We look at the very basic mobility, how I sit, how I stand, how I breathe, the foundations that we don't look at normally because we have mastered it long ago. So same thing. And he said, I was inspired to come back to the basics and give half an hour a day to practice like scales, fingering, breathing, the basics of technique. So people are inspired by this daily habit of self-care and self-exploration, and it can inspire big changes. So it is a journey. You take a small step every day, you're on a journey that can be really transformative.
Thank you for sharing those stories. I think those are very powerful stories for people to see that possibility. Because sometimes like you said, we're just so in what we do every day that we take a lot of things for granted. We forget those foundational things and how we learned them. And this is a way to remind people of the importance of the foundation, and to remind us that we can revisit those things and improve our quality of life going forward, and to pay attention to those changes. Something I really love to work with my clients is just to celebrate those wins when you notice them, or help point out those wins when I notice them for my clients, because maybe they're not thinking about them. They're still in their head thinking about the big goal, but not celebrating each little step along the way. And one of my clients recently, she was telling me about how last year she went with her son to a concert, and was still, in a physical, what she felt like was out of shape. She would get winded. She couldn't stand for a long time. Her feet would hurt. Her back would hurt. But over the last year, she has changed how she shows up every day. She has changed her eating. She has changed her movement. She is much more physically active. Her depression has dramatically improved. She's not finding herself in those negative thoughts. And they recently went to see the same band in concert. And she says, man, I was up singing and dancing the entire time, and I never got tired, and my feet don't hurt, my back doesn't hurt. And she says, it was just something that, at the end of the day, when they got back to the hotel and they were, talking about the show, that's what really stuck out to her was how she felt in that moment and how much more she got to enjoy the experience because it wasn't pain or discomfort or worry or concern. It was just joy and pleasure and spending that time with her son, and they were getting ready for his wedding. And she's like, I'm just at a completely different place in 1 year. And so, we spent a lot of time just focusing on celebrating each little piece of that, to remind herself, physical changes, how much weight she had lost over a year, how her joints felt better, how her muscles felt better, how her mind felt clearer. I mean, so yeah, thank you for sharing those stories. I think it is so important that we remember that we have to acknowledge those things as they happen.
Yeah, yeah, and celebrating is important. It's also an important part of sustaining a habit. Acknowledge that you're doing it, that you keep up with it, that things change over time, and if you hit a milestone, yeah, recognize it, don't take it for granted, celebrate it. Absolutely.
And this kind of goes into that whole thing that we were just talking about, but how can somebody begin to create their own tiny self-care ritual, even if they feel resistant or overwhelmed?
Yeah, so my idea with creating persistent growth is to help people do it. So it is done for you. You get the prompt, the trigger for the behavior. It's an email with a direct link. So you just go there. It is built with a lot of habit creation and behavior change science in the background to make it as easy as possible, as seamless as possible, with the least resistance. But you can do it on your own. But there are some things that you have to really take care that they are in place if you want to sustain a healthy habit or some kind of regular self-care. So first, reduce the demand. Make it as small as possible. I made it 3 minutes. You want to start meditating, meditate for a minute. Don't have the goal to meditate for an hour a day. It is less likely to succeed. You want to build success so that it keeps going. And so that's one thing. Just make it really small and stick with it for a long while, even if it's a habit that needs to grow. Like if you want to run the marathon, it's not enough to run for 1 minute, but start with putting on your running shoes. That would be a good habit. So really reduce the demand of the habit so that you can tick it as a success very quickly. And then reduce all of the intermediate steps, all of the interference and the resistance that could be eliminated. So make it as immediate as possible. For example, if I send people to the course and not to the specific day, They would have to go look for which day, what did I do yesterday, what do I have to do today. I eliminated that. I gave them a direct link. That's an example of reducing all the friction, make it as immediate as possible. So if you want to become a runner, put the running shoes in view, not hidden in the closet. So these are the first shoes that you put on, right? So there's a lot of science to facilitate a habit to really become a habit, so that it's more likely to sustain over time. So these are some examples.
Those are
Find a
great
place for
examples.
it, a time for it, make it as regular as possible, attach it, stack it with other habits that you already have.
Yep. Those are all great examples and definitely how I have developed my daily habits. I always, when I talk to people about creating a morning ritual or a morning routine, I always talk about the importance of what happens the night before. So, like you said, I always make sure that I lay out my workout clothes, my tennis shoes, my socks. I make sure that my music, if I'm going to work out to music, is charged and ready the night before. I make sure my water bottle is filled and in the refrigerator. I do all the things the night before, like you said, to reduce those objections to doing it first thing in the morning. Take those things out of the way so I don't have to think about it. I get out of bed, I know exactly what I need to do.
Yeah, and it's easy to do because you everything is prepared for it. That's great.
And I think I started a lot of those routines when my kids were little, when you have to think about how do I get up, get ready, get the kids up, get them ready, make sure they have their lunches packed, make sure they have their clothes out. It's those same kind of things that you think about when you're thinking about your self care as well. So if I, make sure that the lunch box is on the counter and the baggie is ready for the sandwich and the juice box is in the refrigerator, if you just do those little things the night before, it really eliminates so many things that could deter you from achieving your goal to get out the door by a specific time. And you're teaching those kids the same habits. And that's, like you said, that's how we develop those habits. We do it the same way every day, reducing the things that can get in our way. We achieve what we set out to do. We celebrate those wins. If it's when you're driving in the car now on your way to work, you know that you have completed what you needed to do. I got up, I got the kids out the door, I got my exercise in, all those things. And you think about it, it's like, oh, I did all those
Yeah,
things. And now I
uh,
can go into my day with a ready mindset instead of
yeah,
waking up, scrolling on your phone, starting the day in doom and gloom. You start your day with healthy, positive habits. And I love how you talk about, like you said, you've made it so easy that there's really no objection. They just, all they have to do is open their email, click on a link. It's there, it's ready. They don't have to hunt for it. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to think about what they did yesterday. They may think about what they did yesterday later in the day when they think about, wow, I really can feel the difference in how open my chest is when I breathe. I learned that yesterday. And so you start paying attention. And that's just huge for, continuing to develop those long-term wellness habits.
yeah, yeah. And for your example, if you have everything ready and in the morning when you're packing everything to take the kids to school, when everything is ready, you're not stressed out, so you're in a better mood. You can be attentive to your kids and they notice it. So it's not just the doing the right things, it changes your way of being. So it becomes rewarding, and it also transmits to your kids. They go to school with in a better mood and not all stressed out. So yeah, it definitely makes a difference.
Let's go a little
It's
bit.
rewarding.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's go another level deeper on that. What role does curiosity and playfulness have in sustainable long-term wellness habits?
Yeah, curiosity is we are born with curiosity. I think the main tool that babies have to learn like crazy, their learning process is huge, is because they're curious. And curious means that things grab their attention and they can direct their attention. Our attention is quite miraculous. It is like a flashlight that we manage. And we have this from birth. You see little babies just look at their hand and stay there and really focus for a long while, and then they get bored and go to something else. But curiosity directs our awareness to different places, and it is a learning tool. This is how when we are curious about something, it means that something grabs our attention, we absorb information. This is how we learn. So very basic, and the whole basic attitude of this work that I'm doing, it counts on curiosity. It just gives you the prompts to awaken your curiosity so that you look at small things that you don't usually look at. So if I call your attention to it, you will look at it, and you may find it interesting. If you don't, you won't pay attention to it, and that's also fine. So it's not, I cannot force your curiosity, it is yours. But it's a very important tool. And by reducing the goal or eliminating the goal and eliminating the ambition to do it well, you open space for curiosity. So you can just look at things. You can do things badly. You can play, and playfulness is part of it. You do things without trying to reach something. So instead of performing, you're playing. You're doing things without trying to get them to accomplish something. So yeah, it is the whole learning space as that we had as small children, and unfortunately we kind of lose it with time. We're recreating it to recreate learning by being playful, not trying to accomplish anything, and allowing our curiosity to take us places.
I like that. If you're focused on, perfectionism, making sure you're perfect at doing something, you really lose that curiosity, you lose that playfulness. You just, you're so hyper focused on perfectionism. And I think that when we can kind of shut down that voice of perfectionism, it allows for so much, um, whether it's drawing or coloring or being outside in nature and just taking time to expand your mind and be open, um, than focusing on, I have to be somewhere at a certain amount of time, and you're not thinking and paying attention. You're just hyper focused. When you can be aware of what's going on around you, your mind can just really expand and open up a whole new world for you. So I really love how you talked about that. What is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who is ready to reconnect with their body, but doesn't know where to start?
Okay, so one thing that is a basic attitude is notice that's what you've just said. Perfectionism is an extreme attitude of eliminating play and curiosity, like really focused on a goal. But most of our daily life, we are in performance mode. We have to do things. I mean, when you were preparing your kids to go to school, you were performing, you needed a certain result. So, and we have work to do, we have a family, we have to cook, we have to keep the house clean, we have to keep ourselves clean. We are performing tasks that do have a goal most of the time. So, first of all, find a time, even for 3 minutes or even for 1 minute, where you stop performing. Just the world can wait. And if you make it short enough, you can find that time. And when you stop performing and you say, right now, I don't have to achieve anything, you open up the possibility for a different mode. And that is learning mode. The mode of our brain, of our nervous system, of absorbing, being curious, playing, not trying to achieve anything. So that's one thing. Find the time, define it, insist on it, shut out the world for a short moment. And so you're dedicating a short moment to yourself. And then if you're interested in this, yourself as a moving thing that has a brain, so it's a mind and body in movement, explore movement. So get interested in very small thing, and without trying to reach anything. If you're trying to make a pose and it's difficult, you're performing again. Forget about that. Flex and extend your fingers. It's an action. It's very easy. If we stop to look at it, it's fascinating. So anything, of course, that's why I created persistent growth, so that you have it given to you. You don't have to invent it. But anything that you do, breathing, just breathing, look at your breathing. Fascinating if you take the time to be with it without trying to do anything.
I think that's my favorite part of being in learning mode is the fascination of it all.
Yeah.
If I'm watching
That's what.
something that I've never uh, really learned in depth, that fascination, the excitement that kind of pulses through your body and reminds you of, oh, I'm learning something that I've never experienced. And you can feel it through your body. You can feel your heart rate change. You can feel your breathing change. And so it's so powerful what simple learning and being present in that moment can do for your whole body, your brain, your breathing, your spirituality, your nervous system. I mean, all of it together is just so powerful.
Yeah, but I would say find anything that appeals to you, that is attractive to you, any method, a class. There's so much in YouTube. Open YouTube and look for any kind of mindful practice, movement practice, exercise, whatever. If it appeals to you, go for it and create this attitude of curiosity and not ambition. Just with that, you've created some space of self-care.
Thank you
Do it
so
on a
much.
regular basis, and it's a self-care journey.
Thank you, Michael, for sharing all of that. You mentioned YouTube, so I definitely want you to talk about where people can find you. I know you have a YouTube channel where they can find you there as well. And you also mentioned a free gift that you were going to be sharing with my audience.
Yeah, so on my webpage, I'm offering a 5-day challenge, which is similar to what is happening in persistent growth, what we've been talking about. It just for 5 days, you get a daily movement session. It's about 4 minutes long. three to 4 minutes, I think. And this is it. So you just experience that kind of work, a different session each day for 5 days. This is free, so you can sign up for it. It's on, and the links to my social media is also on my webpage. So the best thing is to go to my webpage, which is persistent-growth.com. So persistent-growth.com.
Wonderful. I will make sure to include that in the show notes. I will also have the link to your YouTube channel, a link to the 5-day free challenge. So thank you for offering that to my audience. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Michael, for reminding us that transformation doesn't always come from doing more. It comes from doing with awareness. And, if you'd like to explore Michael's daily mindful movement membership, please check out the links in the show notes. Remember, consistency isn't about intensity. It's about showing up for yourself one small moment at a time. And until next time, keep your happiness on tap, your mindful breath, and one tiny movement at a time. Michael, thank you so much for sharing what you do here with my audience today, for sharing the experience that you walked us through. I think that's going to be very valuable to our listeners.
Thank you, Leann. It's been a pleasure.
I have enjoyed our conversation today and learned a lot. So thank you again.